Hello, everybody, and welcome in to the Penny Bloom podcast. Today, we begin our second ever Actors Spotlight. This time, under that spotlight is Anya Taylor-Joy, and we are kicking it off with Emma. It was released on March 6th, 2020, written by Eleanor Catton based off the novel by Jane Austen, and directed by Autumn de Wilde. I'm Colton Robertson. I'm joined by Joseph George. What's up, homie?
Oh, what up, what up? Always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it's always a pleasure to have you. And back like she never left, Clare DeGennaro, what is up?
Hi, thanks for having me back.
Oh, of course, of course. This is a fun one. It's a little different from what we usually have you on for. I'm very, very excited. Um, what's your relationship to this movie? What drew you to this? You were the only volunteer when I put out that call, and you were like, "I want to cover Emma," so I want to know why you wanted to cover Emma.
Um, like many millennial girls, I am a huge Jane Austen fan. I've come on with you guys for a lot of the comic book stuff, and that's always fun because I like the movies, but I feel like I don't ever know the source material. Like I know this source material. I'm really excited to come on and talk to you guys about it, and it's a fabulous. A lot of people consider it like the best film adaptation of Jane Austen, and I would have to agree with that. So, really
Ooh,
excited.
okay. Okay, yeah, I haven't read as much Jane Austen as I would like to. I've read some of the essentials, but this, I think, I watched Pride and Prejudice years ago. Years ago. Been a long time. I need to rewatch it. The
Oh,
Keira
if you
Knightley,
do
Matthew
watch
McFadyen. I gotcha. Yes, I need to give that another viewing. But I absolutely fucking loved this. I adored it. I want to apologize at the top of the show for Monday's episode. Akira, we had some technical difficulties. I hadn't had my coffee yet. I was not enthusiastic about that movie either, so it just resulted in a meh episode. I promise I'm gonna be passionate about this one. I fucking loved it. Joe, how are you
Mm.
feeling about Emma coming off of it?
Well, off rip, I didn't even know this was Jane Austen. So that's how little I know of the source material. So I love this matter of perspective of coming from like comic book movies where you have, I know the source material when it comes to Batman or all these things. But yeah, I had no idea Jane Austen. But I'm in love with everything that I'm seeing, and like visually, I was like, oh my god, this was just very, very pretty to look at the whole time. They knew how to shoot the actors, they knew how to shoot nature, they knew how to shoot just kind of everything in the end, even the mansions or the houses that they're into. Very, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I just love Wes so much that I see him in everything now, but like I see a lot of Wes just camera setups and color palette, I guess. I don't know. So I felt like this was just an amalgamation of like Little Women, Wes Anderson. You even threw in like David Copperfield a little bit from Dev Patel.
Mm.
It felt, I don't know, it did just feel like a hodgepodge of a lot of things. And that might just because it's Jane Austen in a story that is just, I don't know, is how old, I don't like what time period does Jane Austen come from? I kind of want to get my bearings right before I speak on it.
Regency era. I should, off the top of my head, know
But not
exactly.
like recently, not like in our
No.
life. Like this is an old story, like that has been
It's
told for
Yes.
time and
Yes.
time and time. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
over 200 years, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's been a
Then yeah,
while.
no,
Been a while.
I'm in.
Um,
I'm in though.
no, yeah. I love period pieces, and period pieces are only as good as their production design, costume design, and makeup can be. And
Mhm.
I think that really sells this movie because you pointed out that they know how to shoot these things, and what really stood out to me is that the cinematography is good. It's solid. It's by no means like, I'm not trying to undersell it as being like average. No, it's good. But the color palette of the film, the set decoration, and the costumes and makeup really elevate it to another level.
Mm.
That's what kind of brings this one home, and especially the performances. We typically start our spotlights, as we did with Dev Patel, discussing the subject, particularly Anya Taylor Joy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of took the liberties here when I selected Dev Patel and Anya Taylor Joy, and I am so fucking glad I did because Anya Taylor Joy is so good in this movie.
Oh my God.
Uh, I loved her. Claire, how do you feel about Anya Taylor-Joy's performance in this movie?
Wow. I mean, number one, just the way she looks. She looks like something out of a Renaissance painting. And kind of this movie, with one exception that I'll talk about later, is very perfectly cast in terms of that. She is so uh, going back to like the adaptation thing. Jane Austen has famously said that Emma is a character that she wrote that only Jane Austen would like. Like she wrote her as a very unlikable character, but throughout the story, she is very charming, and I feel like Anya Taylor-Joy is like of the many actresses I have seen play this role, it is just pitch perfect. She's so funny and interesting and charismatic, and like you want to hit her, but you like can't help but love her. It's
Yeah.
just her very subtle facial expressions, how her face is so different from when she's talking in public to when she turns away and you can see everything written right there on her face. It's so good, and it's so funny, and it's so charismatic. Like she is
She's
this
charming.
movie. Yeah.
Yes,
And
she is so charming.
She needs to be this movie because it's Emma. Emma is so iconic.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that what really stood out to me was just how perfectly imperfect the character Emma was, and how Anya Taylor-Joy kind of fills that to a T. Like, I put in my Letterboxd review that she is such a perfect blend of beauty and talent that just works perfectly for this era, this sort of period piece, and this sort of story, that she just fits like a fucking glove in this film. And one of my favorite scenes in the movie, and it's because of Anya Taylor-Joy, is when Mr. Elton confesses his love for her in the carriage, and the like horrified realization she has that she's led Harriet astray and she's misinterpreted all this stuff, and Mr. Knightley was right and everything is going wrong, and she's like, just like everything that you can see painted on her face. The way she can say so much without saying anything is so fucking good. Joe, how about you? How you feeling about Anya Taylor-Joy here?
You know, in Barbie, when they said Margot Robbie is not the actress to make this point right now, I feel like it's the exact opposite for Emma. It's like Anya Taylor-Joy is the exact actress we need to make this point, and it's the whole movie. And it's like at the beginning, I didn't like her at first. You know, it was like, ooh, she's getting under my skin, making my blood boil a little bit. You know how she's like not playing the piano at all, but then the second, I think it's Mr. Knightley, I think is who she's trying to impress at first. Yeah, and she starts playing, and then she realizes like the focus isn't on her, so she stops and then gets up and then like goes, you know, like all the just, it's like these little things that like the attention always has to be on her, and like she's very manicured and very manipulative at first, and then I'm like, ooh, I really hope she's not like this the whole time. I'm like, because this is the name, you know, the titular character. But no, the journey she sees is, I don't know, I loved it, and she didn't get, I guess she didn't get my favorite character of the movie, but definitely the best arc overall, I think. Just not the most likable character, but as far as her performance of it, yeah, I mean she knocked it out of the park.
She's the performance of the film, man, and that's not to undersell any of the other performances in the film. I adore Johnny Flynn. I was introduced to Johnny Flynn via the I believe it's a Netflix series called Lovesick. Strongly recommend if you've never watched it. It is so funny. It is so cute. And just an adorable show. So that was my introduction to Johnny Flynn. So seeing him pop up in this movie, I was like, oh, okay, hell yeah, Johnny Flynn. All right, been a while since I'd seen him. And he is so good. His chemistry with Anya Taylor-Joy is 10 out of 10. My favorite scene in the movie is one of those where they say so much without saying a fucking thing, and it's their first dance. That's absolutely my favorite scene of the movie. Yes, I mean the tension they build. Oh my god, it's
better than the love confession scene. Oh, good. I have to just say it too. I do love Johnny Flynn. I think he's great in this movie. His casting is probably my only gripe that I have with this movie, because it's not right for Knightley, unfortunately.
Gotcha.
Going back to the source material, Emma's 21, Knightley is 38. So seeing them be very close in age, I think it does change the dynamic between them. I think it makes me because I love Knightley's my favorite. He's the best, and I think when we go throughout the story and he's lecturing her when he's a little bit older, it like makes a little more sense. Like honestly, the line "badly done, Emma," it just doesn't hit when Knightley does not have a receding hairline. Like he just seemed too young to me. He is so adorable. He's great. That's really just my only gripe with this movie is that he's not quite right for Knightley.
That makes sense because that did strike me too. I appreciated the moral compass Knightley had on him, but with him and Anya, the actors appearing so close in age, his like holier than thou, wizened sort of persona did kind of strike me as odd. So it makes sense that in the source material he is older. Like that does make sense. So that was one of my only things that I didn't fully understand about their dynamic was that I was just kind of like, what the like. Why does I understand why she holds his word in such high regard and why, but like I think that the way they butt heads makes a lot more sense for them being closer in age, you know, like I think that really works for me. But yeah, that was one of those things that struck me as odd when I was watching it. I was like, that's.
I wonder
part
of the lecturing
too with like the difference in age is that they shouldn't be butting heads. Emma should just be deferring to him. So the fact that she does is one of the reasons. Like the whole moral of the story is who's your equal, who's your match, who's your like match, not for love, but who's your match and who's going to challenge you. So the fact that she's younger than him and he's so much older and wiser, but she still challenges him is what kind of brings them together. This one to me feels very like siblings are dating a lot of the time. I'm like, oh, they look like their brother and sister and they're like having, it's not quite working for me until the dance scene, which I love, which I do think is great. And I do think that's one of my favorite things about a period piece is when two people dance together and you're like, oh, they're in love. My favorite. But yeah, that's my one thing with this movie. That makes it one of the best adaptations, but not necessarily my favorite.
I get that.
I wonder.
That. No, because
is it like just because the time that it was written, like it was much that was the dynamic of relationships at the time, you know, and then maybe just now that it's a modern movie, like it was 100%. Normal then, so now they're trying to just make it normal now. I don't know, but then it does appear weird, like because it does seem that he's right always, like all the time, like he sees through her sort of thing, like the whole time, and he's like the only one who I guess like can compete, I get, you know, like I guess that was like a word that came up a lot when I was watching is like it felt like it was a competition. Everything was a competition, and it's like why, you know, like you like in making your life this grand competition, like you aren't living like at all anymore. Like you're always on to the next thing, and it's like you're never actually just able to chill out and live, you know. So like it, and then whenever she realizes this, and like I don't know, that's why I thought like the picnic scene was my favorite. Is like whenever she drops the line, and then they're, you know, like everyone there is like, oh, that was like you went, you know, you went across the line. Uncouth. Like we were joking, we were having fun. Like everyone kind of already dislikes you a little bit, but you're just of such a high status that we can't say anything to you. But and so I don't know, that was my scene. I loved when the tables finally turned, and then she was like, oh, like she kind of started to realize everything. But
yeah,
well, and that's what's fascinating too, is that like I got the impression that I didn't get the impression that most of them didn't like her. I got the impression that most of them like love her, and her showing this true side of her, like was like, oh,
yeah,
it's, you know, like
kind of above, like you said, Joey. She's kind of above reproach because of her position in society. And I also think it's a lot about like what's real and what's not real. So she puts out the polite face, and she's so good at manipulating people. There are people who see through that, like her governess, Miss Taylor, can see through that. Knightley sees through that. I think Jane Fairfax a lot of the time sees through that. But like when she finally does it, the line I like from Knightley is how everyone kind of just follows her, right? They follow what she's going to do because she's the young, beautiful, in fashion, high-ranking woman. And then she does this horrible thing, and everyone is kind of horrified, but also kind of takes the lead from her. So it's an interesting dynamic because also it's they all kind of have to play that polite society too. It's like a lot of them have problems with each other that they won't say, that they can't say.
Yeah. Yeah, like my favorite reaction to it was Miss Bates. Like when Miss Bates is like, when she looks at Mr. Knightley and is like, I must have done something. Like, I don't know what I did to deserve that, but I must have deserved that. Like, she's so nice all the time, and I was just kind of like, oh God, you know, like
painful to watch that scene.
Yeah.
What is she
dude,
in?
It hurts so bad.
What is she in? I did.
Miss Bates.
It
She
was
looked so familiar.
the only thing that's coming up is someone on TikTok that looks sort of like her and acts like her, but that's not it. I know that's not it. I know it's this actress in something, but it's the only thing that's been getting to me this whole movie. But
yeah, I mean, like Yara Greyjoy is in this, which was good.
I did see that. Yeah, a little Game of Thrones.
Yes, little Game of Thrones crossover. But yeah, the actress who plays Miss Bates is Miranda Hart, and I mean, she's been in a lot of stuff. But that's the thing, is that when I was looking through most of the filmographies of these people, it's stuff that was on BBC and British network television, and like I'm like, well, yeah, exactly. Like I don't recognize it. Like Miranda Hart did the same thing for me. She struck me as extremely familiar. I looked through her entire filmography, and I haven't seen her in anything else.
No.
I haven't watched anything else with her in it.
I'm looking at it right now. I have no idea.
There is, of course, the fun casting of Mia Goth in this movie. What that great.
Thank you. I love her. I've only seen her as an absolute psychopath in X and Pearl. I've never watched her in anything else.
And honestly, she brings that energy to this, and it makes Harriet a lot more interesting. Because Harriet's very much like she's just a reflection of Emma, and so she makes it just, I don't know. It gives Harriet a character. Oh my God, she's so good.
I love it. Yeah, no, Harriet's my favorite character in the movie. I absolutely love her. And it's because she's just so adorable.
The only adaptation where that will be true.
Yeah. Like I 100%, when I was watching this, it reminded me of a role in How I Met Your Mother, played by Katy Perry, where they call the bit in How I Met Your Mother is that Ted's telling his kids, you know, how he met their mother. So the story's like 25 years earlier. He can't remember this girl's name, so he refers to her as Honey, because everything she said made them go, oh, honey. You know, like that's and that's kind of the vibe that Harriet brings to the function, you know. It's just kind of like, oh, honey, you know, like,
feel bad for her, man, you know.
No, I loved her though, and like, because she meant so well, and I love the way that she provides this is specifically in the adaptation. I don't know what the book material is like, but I love the thing she provides for Emma, where Emma wants to do her best to elevate Harriet, but she also wants to keep Harriet for herself. She wants to have someone riding her coattails and always trailing her and never able to surpass her. And but she also wants to help her friend as much as she can. And like watching that like conflict within Emma as it regards Harriet was one of my favorite parts of the movie. And it's just, I love the way that Emma can never. She loves Harriet, but she never understands Harriet. She never can fully grasp what is best for Harriet and what Harriet wants, or anything like that. So like whenever the conflict comes up, when she's like, I think I've fallen in love again, I go, fuck, you know, like I know immediately that she means Mr. Knightley. Like it's like, I'm like, Emma, come on, man, you gotta know she's talking about Mr. Knightley. Like, and I get what the miscommunication was, but it's like, come on, Emma, pay a little attention.
Because she can't fathom, because even if she can't admit it to herself, Mr. Knightley is hers, you know? There's a great line where Emma's like, sorry, but in the book, I was just looking through, because of course I have my source material right here. There's a great line where she's like, Emma thinks to herself, like, Harry can't possibly fall in love with 3 men in the span of 1 year. Like, there can't possibly be another man she's in love with.
And
yeah, no, and I mean, like,
man, I don't know. You kind of said how you were focusing on the dynamic from Emma with Harriet, but I think the more interesting conflict is like within Harriet herself. Like, I think she is the main one who is just okay with the like polite society thing. She realizes the position she's in. She has a friend who is like she's the friend of the status symbol of like the time, and like I think she does everything she can to like keep that relationship, even though it means like very very bad, you know, like she, because like her reactions to a lot of things, she knows that like she's being manipulated in cases, like I feel like she is aware of it, and she's like, you know, she kind of puts it down and then continues on, I feel like a lot of times. And that's why she was a potential for my favorite character, is like the, I don't know, maybe even performance, but I couldn't go with anyone other than Anya Taylor-Joy. But like I really liked Harriet and just her internal struggle, it felt like, was really strong.
Yeah, no, Mia Goth is a perfect weirdo, man. Like that
Yes.
first scene, you're introduced to her, and she's like, she's drinking tea with her, and then she takes the macaroon, and is like, and she like chews really fast. Like I absolutely loved that. It was but yeah, like it was such a pleasant surprise, like person after person who popped up in this movie, because I absolutely adore most of this cast. Because, you know, like I said, I love Johnny Flynn, I love Anya Taylor-Joy, but then like I didn't know Bill Nighy was in this movie.
Oh my! And what a great casting of Mr. Woodhouse.
So perfect. He is so perfect in this movie. And then you know, Mia Goth popped up, and I was like, Mia fucking Goth is in this? Because, like, I obviously, oh yeah, like, I'd only ever seen her in X and Pearl, and I'm deeply anticipating Maxine, so I was like, oh, hell yeah. And then Josh O'Connor shows up, and I'm like, Challengers comes out here in a couple weeks, I'm ready for that, you know, he's one of the dudes kissing on Zendaya's neck in that trailer, and I'm like, okay, here we go, you know, I'm like, everyone just keeps popping up, and I'm like, this fucking rocks, you know, and it's just, I mean, a visually brilliant story being told, and I absolutely adore the like the title cards. Love the title cards. The Emma, like at the beginning when she's walking down the hallway, was already one of my favorite shots in the movie. But then we returned to that like counter for all the seasons that are passing, you know, autumn, winter. I love that. I love that whole thing. Yeah, and then my favorite shot of the movie ultimately is going to be the last shot of the movie, because it just made me go like, you know, like it was one of those ones where it was just like, I love it. I love it. Just her closing her eyes and like finally finding this contentness with life and just where she's at. Like, I love it. I love it. And that being the final image of the movie before they cut to black and put Emma on the screen, like, or directed by Autumn DeWild, whatever. It was so fucking good. I absolutely adored it.
I'm sorry, Joe. Go ahead.
Okay. I don't know if it just didn't click off this first one, but like, if I'm gonna say like this or Little Women, like I cried more in Little Women throughout the movie. This one kind of all hit me at the end. Like it was kind of like when the wedding, like her wedding started and her dad was walking her down the aisle and he like started to cry. I was like, oh, wait a minute. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like realizing the whole journey, like realizing everything. I'm like, wait, like I didn't really care about this dad at all. You know, he's funny. He puts up his screens for, you know, whatever. He has his quirks. But like I didn't care about him. But now that I see him crying, I'm like, wait. I'm like, I'm starting to cry. And then I don't know, just everything just piling on. And so like it was this weird kind of like hit me like a brick wall. So like I don't know how to really compare like the two, like
the way that
it's hard to compare because Emma's satire and Little Women's not.
That's true.
What I love so much about that end scene is that you see everyone that you've followed and you see their journey. Like you see Mr. and Mrs. Weston with their baby, and you see Harriet and Robert Martin, and you even like Mr. Elton gives the same speech he gave at the beginning, but he's not as ridiculous anymore. And like you see his wife, and it's like, oh my god, like look at how we've all come together. And like Knightley's crying, Emma's crying, I'm crying. It's a whole thing.
Yes, no, it's perfect. It's a great ending to a great movie. Like it really just sealed the deal for me. And like one of those scenes that like the satire really pops out is the confession of love Mr. Knightley has for Emma whenever he does that. Like to compare it to Little Women, and Timothy Chalamet being like, we have to have this out. We have to talk about it. Like, it's essentially the same scene, but one is much funnier than the other. You know, like that is, and Emma walking away and being like, oh my fucking God, not again. You know, like that whole thing. I absolutely love it.
Which I think was real. I think Anya Taylor-Joy's nose actually did start to bleed during the scene.
That's what it looked.
That's a real trivia.
Unplanned.
Yes.
Like it was legitimately. Like, was it?
I think it was in the script, but she was just, I guess, like focusing so hard on it, like she actually gave herself.
You can just do that. You can.
If you're Anya Taylor-Joy, you can just do that.
Pure emotion. Just that is acting right there. You know what? That is. If you like, crying is hard enough, but to make yourself bleed on command, okay, if that's kind of nuts. I have no qualms with giving her the performance now. I didn't anyways before that. I don't think that's what nailed it in the coffin, but that's pretty cool. That because it looked very practical, which is how do you do that? You know,
I've read like a bunch of interviews with her about it because I'm like, is it that she started getting nosebleed during the scene and they're like, oh, keep it, and then they got makeup in to like actually make it look good? But it was apparently written in the script that Emma was going to have a nosebleed. They were going to cut and then do like the makeup on her face, and during the scene she got the nosebleed and Johnny Flynn started freaking out. She's like, no, keep it, it's fine. And
yeah,
I don't know.
It's
perfect to me.
Oh, okay. I could see that.
It was like
holding it in.
Coincidence. It wasn't like she tried to do it. It's like Anya Taylor-Joy gets nosebleeds. So does Autumn de Wilde. Like that was just, and it happened at the perfect fucking time. And they were like, "Yep, roll with it. That's perfect."
Because you can kind of keep it in for like, I know it's disgusting to like talk about, but like you can you know whenever it's about to release. Yeah. So like, wow, that's kind of cool. It's weird, but very, very cool.
Yeah, but like in terms of this, I guess not just the cinematography, but like the photography direction, I guess you would call that. Like it looks so good. I mean, the photography in this movie is so gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
I could not. This was the hardest picking a favorite shot that we've ever done because every shot was beautiful.
It's a gorgeous movie.
I
ended up going with one that just made me feel the most. Not one that I felt like was the most well-designed or anything. It was just like, that shot hit and she shut her eyes and I was like, you know, like I just like, it all came out for me. But like, there are several beautiful shots in this movie, man. Like like I said, like the original title card is one of my favorite shots in the movie. When they're in like Mr. Knightley's ballroom that he's opened up for them and the painting on the wall taking up like the entire background when Anya Taylor-Joy is in the foreground. One of my favorite visuals in this entire movie. Just a gorgeous one. Joe, did you end up coming down with one that you're settling on?
I have two, and I don't know which one to go with because I love them both. One is she's in a greenhouse, and I think it's that's not Knightley then. That's
no,
not Churchill. Is it Churchill? I thought his name is something.
It's Frank. I'm pretty sure it's Frank Churchill. Yeah.
Okay.
Frank Churchill, who I always call Frank Castle.
Yes. Punisher. So when the Punisher arrives in the greenhouse, she steps back into like the sunlight for like a second, and just like perfect light on her face through like the greenhouse. It was beautiful. That was one of them, and then the other was Emma and Harriet were just kind of walking down these like natural steps. Like I don't know, it was just this green path, but they were steps, but they weren't, I don't know how that happens. It man-made, but looked to be very natural at the same time.
Carved into the natural earth. Yeah.
It was very beautiful and just perfectly centered in frame as well. I'm a sucker for symmetry, so that was really nice. But I think I'll go with the sunlight one, just because it kind of proved like
she's like glowing.
It just like they knew, they're like, here you go, like here's Anya Taylor-Joy. Can you imagine like I'm like on a theater screen, like that would be crazy.
We can't imagine COVID shut it down.
Oh damn!
Yep. It came out 1 week before the national emergency was declared.
Well, okay, never mind. Yeah, it's not a possibility then. But okay, maybe
Whoever got it in that week, though, if it, like they got lucky.
There's
they got
some
lucky.
reruns that might, maybe we need like a COVID rerun. All the movies we missed.
Yeah, we need the 5th anniversary next year. 5 years.
The blip.
Of Emma.
Yeah,
for some reason
we all blipped. Now we're all back. Let's watch all these things that we blipped for, and then we're good. Now we can continue on. We can forget that it ever happened. Let's just move on. But wow, bad timing, I guess, for this one then. But
yeah, that was a rough one. That was a rough one.
Doesn't take away from how good of a movie it is, though. That doesn't matter when it's released. But yeah, I don't know. I think you hit the nail on the head, though, whenever you were like, just the color palette alone and the costumes, just prime it for like looking beautiful already. Like, they didn't really need to go above and beyond for shots. They were just, you could just set the camera up and it's gonna look good pretty much however you do it. And they did a great job.
They just happened to also have a pretty cinematographer behind it.
Yeah,
it's perfect,
I felt like, was it? I always go back and forth if it's Churchill or Knightley in these scenes, but there's I think they're in like maybe like a shop, and there's like this pink like tent thing. I don't know, and
that's Churchill.
The camera like it goes down and it's blurred. I don't know. It has them in focus. I don't know. That was like really pretty.
I loved the moment before they reveal Churchill, like they don't reveal Churchill's face, but like Churchill walks into frame and his head is cut off by the curtain, and Emma is perfectly in the like ridge of them looking up at him, and it's just gorgeous. Like one of those little moments that's just so thoughtful and pretty, where like almost it kind of struck me as like for a moment you think her vanity's kind of slipping away, and then they kind of slide under it and they show you Churchill again, and she kind of swoons, and you're like, no, it's not. I like that Churchill kind of represents everything that kind of Emma's basest instincts, just kind of everything that she's ever had the wrong impulse about, Frank kind of embodies, and it's kind of what she like wants, but it's not what she needs,
It's a taste of her own medicine.
And then when she realized what she needs is also like what Knightley says at the top of the movie is like, what she needs is to love more than she is loved, and she needs to feel the chase. She needs to feel humbled, and once she does, things will be okay.
Oh, Frank Churchill, what a character!
Some thighs on that man. Oh my God, did he have some thonkers? I mean, just logs. Like, I mean, those maybe it was just the pants and just the style of the clothes, but like he just stood out among anyone else I noticed. I don't know. He was just. I think they even mentioned that like before. They're like, yeah, he's just well grown. Like the dude he's very good looking, very well grown, and then he comes on screen. I'm like, yeah, no, that's damn
good looking, well grown man.
And that's how. Yeah, I'm sure that's how we're supposed to believe that Emma feels too, right? Because that's essentially her intended. Like everyone thinks they're gonna end up together, even though they've never met. So yeah.
What a weird time.
The way that he's like setting him up the whole time. He's like, yeah, Frank couldn't make it tonight. Sorry about that, Emma. Maybe next time. And Emma's just kind of waiting around to meet Frank for the whole first half of the movie. It's such an interesting concept for relationships and developing that.
Life in general is so much harder back then. Just a sentence, to get through a sentence, it was like everything they're saying is so complicated. We're so simple now, like our speak is just so natural. Like we don't think about it. I don't know. If they were to hear us today, they were to think of us as probably, I don't know, stupid. We're not using big words at all, and they do, and I feel kind of dumb now after watching this movie. I want to go back to that time. I want to
just the evolution of language is all. Yeah. That's all it is.
These are the highest bred people. They have literally nothing else to do with their time.
That's true.
They have someone who's putting on their shoes for them.
Yeah, I don't want to talk like that. Like clothes. Yeah. The clothes could be cool. Like I'd be down if we just had like a day of the week where everyone just went all out. Like everyone just. In the world, just whatever time period you want to pick, just go for it. It's normal that day.
Just spiffy. Just spiffy.
But
Yeah, no, I mean, I loved the costume design in this movie. It was done by Alexandra Byrne, who is a fantastic costume designer. Did Guardians of the Galaxy, did Doctor Strange, um, did Mary Queen of Scots, Murder on the Orient Express, Avengers: Age of Ultron, The Avengers, Thor. So a lot of those comic book movies we have discussed in the past,
you're
and a
telling
lot
me
of movies set around this time.
you're telling me that guy might have been the one to decide the look of on-screen Ultron, and he also did this.
That woman, Alexandra Byrne.
Well, wow. So they made Ultron on screen and did this at the same time. Yeah, it could only be done.
To decide if that is a costume design thing for Ultron, or if that is a
it's not. It's not super
VFX
comic accurate.
Artist and concept art.
That's true. Yeah, I guess maybe they're more on like the actual physical costumes there. That's more concept art. Yeah, true.
And then she decided that ridiculous shirt for Wanda to wear in Ultron.
She was responsible,
I guess,
for taking Kevin Feige's orders to make it not awesome,
with creative freedom here and time period, and let
you
loose.
See just how wonderful it can be.
Again, it's like very much regarded as the best visual adaptation of those costumes as well. And I just feel like everything about this movie just nails the tone of what Austen writes, because she's really funny, she's really cutting, she's really sarcastic, and she's
was
really
so fucking
satirical.
funny.
And it just feels like it's so whimsical, and it feels like not real, and it feels like everyone is on like some other kind of level, like I'll have what they're having, what are these people doing? But it's just they really have just captured the way it feels to read this story.
Yeah, no, I loved the comedic beats in this movie. I actually texted Joseph last night while I was watching it, before he had a chance to, where not only did the like color palette and some of the shot setups remind me of Wes Anderson, but some of the line deliveries and the comedic beats did remind me of early Wes, sort of Bottle Rocket, Rushmore, Darjeeling Limited. Those were kind of like, when it comes to the comedy in this movie and the like dry delivery of a lot of the straightforward funny beats, was outstanding. And Anya Taylor-Joy, I've seen her in plenty of stuff, but I've never watched her be funny. I've only ever watched her be serious and dramatic, like in The Northman, or in a couple of the movies we've got coming up, in Last Night in Soho and The Menu, but this is so far probably my favorite Anya Taylor-Joy performance I've seen, and it's because she's so fucking funny. Like and it's mostly delivery. It's not like she's saying a lot of funny stuff, but whenever she meets Jane Fairfax and they're sitting down for tea with Miss Bates and stuff, and she just like kind of looks straight forward the whole time, and then she like politely responds, and then she goes back to looking straight forward, and then like she's not saying anything funny, but her presence is entirely comedic in those moments, and it's so perfect. So, like, again, I'm so glad we kicked off this project for Anya Taylor-Joy with Emma, because it's got me more excited than, when we started the dev project with The Last Airbender.
Oh my God.
Much better starting point here.
That's for sure. No, there was one moment, I don't know if it just went over my head, or I don't know if it is just funny because it is random and whatever, but, like, she gets dressed by one of her maids, and they get her, like, she gets her dressed, and the maid's walking out of the room, and she's standing in front of a fire, and then she just pulls her dress up, and then just like keeps it up for a minute. Like it like the only thing that's going through my head is like she's cold and she wants to like feel the fire on her skin, but then I'm like, what am I? That doesn't feel fun. Like I don't like. Am I missing something? I don't know. It felt like I was missing something there.
No, it's funny. I didn't read any deeper into it than she needed warmth. That was
it.
All.
It's just she wanted to be more warm, like
uncomfortable.
I noticed that too. I was like, that's interesting. That's what I thought as well.
Because I thought, I don't know, and then I was like, is it like a she didn't have the power, like she was getting dressed and she, it wasn't her that did it, so she wanted to take back some power, because like.
No,
I didn't.
I think you're reading into that a bit much. I think it is just that she wanted some warmth and wanted to feel the fire on her skin. Like, that's kind of how I took it.
Okay.
I mean, there are also gratuitous shots of Knightley naked as well. So
This is fair. Yeah, I guess they do throw him in there, but yeah, no. As far as Anya Taylor-Joy performances for me, I mean, I've only seen her in Dune Part 2, which is, not a whole lot.
I love you.
Yeah, not a whole lot going there yet. But excited to see whatever her future is there. But definitely glad I'm getting the spotlight on her. Because much greater start than Last Airbender. Not to say Dev didn't do a good job in Last Airbender. He was the highlight of the acting there. But we saw a rise with Dev. I don't know if she seems that she's already quite there.
Yes.
In my opinion, I think we see a.
Yeah, we've already peaked maybe a little bit. We came in a little hot.
Yes, in my perspective.
Okay.
But yeah.
Well,
not for her. She's good in all these movies. The overall movies themselves.
Okay.
I don't like Last Night in Soho as much as this, and then The Menu and Last Night in Soho, I kind of value on roughly the same level. There's not a particular one that I mean, I like all the movies. They're a good time, but I think that this is the best movie we'll cover of the three in anticipation of Furiosa.
Okay.
I would say that's probably true. This feels like just also, again, it's so much her movie, and the performance, it's like the pairing of the character to the actor is one of those pairings that's very kind of rare and very special. And that's really what makes this movie really cool. I think in a lot of adaptations, the focus is more the Knightley and Emma relationship, which I enjoy, but the focus here is very much Emma. Knightley isn't as big of a part. And it's interesting. I don't know if you guys have seen or realized, but there's a BBC adaptation, but the other film adaptation is Gwyneth Paltrow as Emma. So that's a very, very different take on it. And I still like Gwyneth Paltrow as Emma, but it's not nearly as fun as this is.
Right. Yeah, I was looking through. I like to have whatever movies we're covering physically. So I went to my local video store and I looked through everything looking for Emma. They didn't have it. But they had the older ones. They had the Gwyneth Paltrow one, and I was intrigued by it. I got excited when I saw it. I was like, oh, like it was one of those. I pulled it off the shelf. I was like, shit. I have not watched that one. But I do enjoy Gwyneth Paltrow. I do enjoy Gwyneth Paltrow a great deal. So I saw Anya Taylor-Joy say something about how she is she's the first quote unquote ugly actress to play this role. So just like that sort of self-deprecation. I'm like, Anya Taylor-Joy, come on now.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah.
Just kind of like one of those, like, she is a very unique beauty. I don't think there's anybody I've ever seen who I could say I think looks like Anya Taylor-Joy, but definitely not in a bad way. Like in the utmost good way, the best possible way. So this was one of those where as soon as I finished it, I went online and got the Blu-ray of it instead of, I was like, you know what? I didn't own it before. I will own it now because I absolutely loved it. I adored this movie. And because, it was just kind of a hodgepodge of everything I kind of love. And, I'm a sucker for period pieces, like I said at the top of the movie. And this was so funny. And it was kind of, it frames it as something of a romantic comedy, which I really, really enjoyed. And it has the beats of a typical romantic comedy where the relationship builds and then they have that spat and they fall apart, but then at the last minute they come back together and, oh, guess what? They're getting married. And, oh, guess what? Like, it's just like all this stuff. So, like, that was one of those things that I'm a sucker for, where if you can make a movie with the beats of a rom-com and make it, like, elevatedly good, that's going to be a movie I fucking love, So, I absolutely adored it.
Well, speaking of rom-com, I don't know if you guys are aware of this either, but there is a very famous rom-com that is based on Emma. Do you know what it is? Clueless.
I'm very
okay.
on the rom-com, but let's see if I know it by. Oh, that's okay. 95.
It's
I have not watched Clueless in years, but yes,
you might revisit it because it's the same. It's the story.
Wow, one that I haven't
Is that
seen.
the one with Paul
Rudd? Yeah, and Alicia Silverstone. Yeah. Wow. Okay. But yeah, no, this I do agree. This is like a comfort Little Women. Like Little Women there's some hard stuff that you have to get through. You know, if you want to watch Little Women, there's some scenes that are not the easiest. And I mean, I don't really think there's anything here that is even remotely close to that. It's just very comfortable, and even when it gets, when there is conflict or there are, tension between characters, it's now that I know it all ends well and there is kind of a happy ending. It is a very, very comfort movie now. And that it does have, these Wesisms, these, I don't know. It is beautiful. It does have that Little Women kind of period piece to it as well. It has, I don't know, just a lot of things that I love as well.
Yeah, no, and it's definitely going to lead me back to watching a lot more of the Jane Austen adaptations that I only watched Pride and Prejudice at least 10 years ago. It's been way too long. I need to revisit it, but I need to watch that. I want to watch Ang Lee's Sense and Sensibility. I don't know if you've ever seen that one with Emma Thompson.
One? No. The only Sense and Sensibility I've seen is the Emma Thompson one.
Yes, that is that one.
Yes.
That is
fabulous.
Kate Winslet and
Hugh Grant.
I
think Alan Rickman's in it too.
I think I watched Pride and Prejudice in school. Maybe.
There's a lot of controversy about not a lot of controversy about the 2005. I think it's very generally beloved. A lot of people talk about how it's not book accurate, and it's not, but it is one of my favorite movies ever.
I think I watched that one in school. I think. I don't know though. Maybe we read the book. With
what's his name from Succession, right? Succession.
Yeah, Matthew McFadden. Yeah.
He's so
yes. I mean, like, I need to revisit that horribly, but yeah, I almost watched Sense and Sensibility just a couple weeks ago because I watched Brokeback Mountain for the first time, also directed by Ang Lee, and I was like, okay, well, I love that. I love Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And say what you will about Hulk 2003, but at least it's really original. So, like, I enjoy Ang Lee's work a great deal.
It's awesome.
Okay. I'll have to check it out then. I will have to check it out. But, yeah, are we missing anything? Is there any favorites that have not been listed?
Lines. We really haven't. I don't think any of us have given lines yet. So
no, we have not. Claire, do you have a favorite line off the top of your head?
So usually my favorite line would be "Badly done, Emma," but I don't love it as much in this one as other ones. So my favorite line is gonna be, if I loved you less, I would be able to talk about it more."
Okay. That's mine as well. Yeah. That is also mine.
It felt like the line of the movie, and then I saw it in Colton's box, and I'm like, okay, so this does feel right. But okay, so we'll have a double. You and Colton will have that line. I did. That's
nice. Have the same scene too, so.
Okay. Yes, sucker for the same shit here, me and Claire. But yeah, no, that was the line that just made me like when it comes to, like, I don't want to keep comparing it to Little Women because they're different movies entirely. And this, like, to flip that sort of context on its head, where the romantic Timothée Chalamet and hopeless, he's just throwing anything at the wall. It's not going to stick, and he knows it, but he's trying his best. Whereas this is like, he's trying to convince her, like, come on now, it's there, I know it's there, let's fucking do this thing. Like, let's just go. So, I'm a sucker for it, and it just made me, it was the opposite of Little Women in that it fulfilled exactly what I wanted versus
it's the comfort.
Everything falling apart away from what I wanted. Like it's the comfort version, and it made me extremely happy. So yeah, if I loved you any less, perhaps I'd be able to talk about it more. Was just like,
yeah, that hit.
Fuck yeah, I love it.
Well, I went with a line that Emma was telling Harriet. It's at the end, whenever everything is starting to look great. And Harriet's like, hey, my father finally revealed himself to me now that I'm of age. And he makes something. Start with a G. Something. And then whenever Emma just says, well, then I hope you bring him to Hartfield, and they kind of have their first embrace, and I was just like, oh, that was kind of the first oh honey.
Yeah.
Maybe you're right, Harriet is like a honey, is the honey kind of the movie. So it was nice to have Harriet's kind of story feel good at the end. So that's what I went with. But
Well, and her like settling was also what she wanted in the first place, which also makes it like it does feel kind of odd because she's just kind of like, well, he proposed and I accepted, and it's like, thank fucking God, you know, like it's like at least that worked out. But whenever she tells her the first time, you know, like I turned him down because of you, you know, like I hope you know that, like I've got dibs on this motherfucker whether you like it or not. You told me to not. You told me to go above my station. So like I loved that sealing of their story as well. And I like that the movie, it felt like her and Harriet were a larger heart of this movie than her and Mr. Knightley, which I don't know how book accurate that is, right. But
unfortunately in the book, their story sort of ends like it doesn't end badly, but I believe there's a line at the end of the book where Emma kind of realizes like Harriet's not really the right companion for her because of her station. So she's happy for her to have married Barbara Martin, and then they kind of go their separate ways. So I like the way it plays out in the movie a lot more.
Good change. Good comfort change,
yes.
At least. Maybe better for a book, you know, to end, you know, it's all better
for
the
time
medium.
And everything, you know.
I think in the book it's meant to be a little bit like you're reading this like this is a ridiculous relationship for them to have. Like it just doesn't make sense. Like Emma's so... And well, part of it too is Emma's so upset, like that her governess has married and moved on. Like she needs a friend, so she picks Harriet, and you're like, this is not really the right companion for her. So the whole time you're like, that makes sense that they kind of find where they're supposed to be again, like finding who your equal is. But I liked in the movie, it kind of is like, no, they are equals.
It kind of sounds
Mrs.
weird.
Taylor would have felt the draft.
Yeah, it feels weird to say like find your equal. Like it feels kind of wrong and like selfish or like arrogant in yourself. But it's kind of like more like I think what it shows, at least in this movie, is that like your like actual love is kind of your equal as well. The person you will end up loving is your equal. You can't kind of love anyone unless they are that way kind of already. And I don't know, I thought everyone kind of just got their like Mr. Elton, man, you know, I did feel bad for him, you know, he got turned down. He really thought he was being led on for what, I don't know.
I didn't feel bad for that fuck.
No, I mean, I didn't really.
I
mean, I didn't really. He was so weird too, just his mannerisms and everything, you know, like he always held his arms out like this, you know, like or whatever. He always just
Am I losing my mind? Is there a homoeroticism to him that I'm missing? I thought he was gay.
Well, he marries like he's truly marrying for money. He's marrying for no other
jealousy,
reason.
I feel like it was like trying to get under like Emma's skin. Maybe was that part of it, or was it just a
for sure?
Well, and there's also
very jilted by her. He wants her because she has 30,000 pounds a year, and also he's a vicar. So in a way too, like Emma's offended that he proposes to her because she's so far above his station, and she's like, how could he think that? And Knightley's like, you're doing the same thing with Harriet, and that's kind of like a come to Jesus moment for her too. But I love the line that Emma says where she's like, there's a littleness about him, like get it,
yes,
there's a little
his ass. Yeah, there's a littleness about him. That was perfect. Because, I mean, like, there was a moment whenever Mr. Knightley is talking to Emma about Mr. Elton, and he's like, he's not going to settle. There's a difference to him when he's just talking around men versus when he's talking around you guys. And I thought what they were alluding to was that Mr. Knightley's got a gaydar on him.
And
I don't think I think he's like, no, he's a dick.
I mean, being the priest.
Yes, but that was
too as well stereotypically there.
Yeah.
You know,
there was a lot of the stereotypes were occurring to me, and so I was just kind of like, and it's also Josh O'Connor, who I appreciate a great deal, but like when it comes to like Challengers is coming out, so I've already got this homoeroticism attached to him in my head coming into it, and then there's that, so I'm just kind of like. I was reading it wrong. That was on me.
I think that's the wrong read of it. I think that probably makes a lot of sense. He's it's not for desire that he's pursuing any of these women.
That's true.
And whoever
dude, I don't know, just kind of a.
He's off-putting, to be sure. There was I mean, just like the way when he's talking like that, the confession of his love to to Emma was one of my favorite scenes in the movie, and it was because of Anya Taylor-Joy. But like the way he just like doubles down on how little he cares about Harriet. Like I don't give a fuck about her.
I've never thought of
besides
her
the
in my
fact that
life.
she's your friend. Yeah, I've never given her a second thought, besides the fact that she's your friend. And the way he keeps trying to qualify it to make it, like, okay, but he's like, you're just being an asshole, dude. Like, he just keeps going harder and harder at it.
Oh my god, no, I think you're totally right. The only way he will accept a woman is if it is Emma, like, if it is the top of the game. But he doesn't take any mind to any other woman ever that way because he likes men. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think
he
you're
either
right.
likes men or he doesn't have sexual desire.
That's true.
It's one or the other. Like it's either of those because like he is, and you know he's a gold digger. You know that could just be
true.
it. But you know I the relationship he ends up forming. I appreciate like a lot of the crossover I saw here. Claire, you joined us for Barbie. The gentleman who plays Robert Martin is in Barbie. He's one of the executive dudes who's like, I'm a man with no power. Am I a woman? You know, that guy, that's him.
Oh,
He's
really?
I'm a man with no power. Does that make me a woman? He's also in Sex Education with the woman who Mr. Elton ends up marrying. She's also in Sex Education.
She's awesome in this movie. She's perfect.
She is so fucking funny. She is so funny.
You want to kill her. Oh my god, it's so good.
Dude, so like, if you've never watched Sex Education, I watched the first couple seasons. Very worth your time. Absolutely adored it. There's kind of where it goes might not be, from what I've heard, it might not be the best, but all the actors ended up getting fucking famous, so it was like everybody kind of had to do their own thing. Emma Mackey also ended up being in Barbie.
Right.
Ncuti Gatwa ended up being Doctor Who and in Barbie. That guy ended up being in Barbie. So like all of them ended up being in bigger things.
And the lead of Bridgerton last season was in it too. I can't remember her name. Ashley Simone, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Man,
beautiful.
Yes.
Okay.
So
a lot of talent going around. Yeah, there's
tons of talent. But
a really good cast of this movie.
I loved it, and I think our rating of it will reflect such. Do you guys think we are ready for that section of the podcast?
I think, yeah. I don't know what more I'd say.
Then before we dig into that, I will do the plugs. If you would, head to patreon.com/PennyBloomPod, where you'll find over 50 hours of exclusive content, all sorts of book reviews, comic book reviews, movie reviews, and the like, and early access content. You're not going to be listening to this until at the earliest, May 8th, but it would have been available to you 3 weeks ago over on Patreon if you wanted to get it then, and on video and all that. It's a fun time over there, and you can have access to that for $1.50 a month. And everything else we're doing. So there's that. And that's patreon.com/PennyBloomPod. If you would, head to Twitter, follow at PennyBloomPod, follow on Instagram and TikTok while you still can, at PennyBloomPodcast. Remember to leave a 5-star rate and review wherever you might be listening, and download episodes. You can also watch us on YouTube now. I always have a little vinyl that I feel reflects the spirit of the movie we discuss, and this one is Prelude to Ecstasy by The Last Dinner Party, 2024 album. That's a bunch of British chicks that are awesome. So great album, strongly recommend it. But you'd see that if you're watching on YouTube, Yeah. With that, let's go ahead and rate this bad boy. How are we feeling? On a scale of 1 to 10, how much are you loving this movie, Claire? Let's start with you.
Oh my god, yeah. Enjoyment wise, I kind of want to give it a 10. Honestly, it's so fun.
Oh, it's so fucking fun, and I mean, like, this was one of those ones where instantly, whenever I logged it on Letterboxd, this was like, it's 5. This is one of my favorite movies. I absolutely adored it, and I'm not far off. Like, it's genuinely, when it came to like our dev spotlight, it's up there with the best of the best for me. Like Green Knight and Monkey Man, it's in that range for me. I adored this movie. How are you feeling, Joe, on a scale of 1 to 10?
I know it's not, like, just for me personally, not a 10, but now that I know, it's like Jane Austen and like all of these things. I don't know, that's way cooler now. I was just out. I just kind of turned the movie on, not knowing nothing. I just knew Anya Taylor-Joy as Emma. That's literally all I knew going in. And I'm not gonna say I hated it. I'm still in like the nine. It's nines. Like, yeah, that is where I'm at. But like I could see this becoming like a 10. Like, because I don't really see myself just throwing on Little Women. I see myself throwing on Emma, like just to, I don't know, just to watch it again. It is
no, to contrast them. Whenever I throw on Little Women, it's because I know I'm going to sob. You know, I'm like, it's time.
Cry for 2 hours.
I need a detox.
It's time.
Yeah.
Let's do this thing. It's a once or twice a year. Let's get some Little Women in. Fall comes around. It's like, let's fucking roll.
It's kind of like, damn it, I'm watching Little Women, but in a good way. It's like, damn it.
Yes,
but
yeah.
Emma,
here we go.
A little bit of
yeah. But Emma,
yes, no, I love it. But I could see myself watching this a lot more casually, and it's very, very comfortable. So like, I'm 9.25, is kind of where I fell.
Okay, yeah, I like that.
That's how's that sound to you?
Copperfield was 9.25. And that's
9.5.
Yeah, I felt I'm enjoying this a little more than Copperfield, and I don't think we have a 9.5 yet. We don't. Green Knight was 9.75, so this would just kind of be right in between.
I love that movie though, so
and
I'm
I
cool
think
with that.
I would agree. I would agree with that. So okay, so we have a 10 and a 9.5. It's looking pretty good so far.
Yeah, it's off to a good start. On a scale of 1 to 10 critically, all things considered, cinematography, performances, score, I fucking loved the score. I've been listening to it on repeat ever since we started the show. I took a walk this morning, and I was listening to it, and I was really in my girl who is going to be okay era. Like I'm walking around like... I'm smiling at the sky. I'm looking at the trees. Everything's cool. So I absolutely loved it. But all that and more taking into consideration, how good of a movie do you think Emma is, Claire?
Oh my god, like 9.5.
9.5. Yeah, I mean, like, it's fucking good. It is fucking good, and
especially if you care about this time period. If you care about the source material, you're like, yeah. I mean, this is kind of tops.
That rounds it out to a 97% for you, which is a fucking fantastic movie.
Yeah, I would say that makes sense. I would put this in very high up on my scale of movies I love.
Okay.
Oh, and I adore it as well. And I think when it comes to the critical side of things, I can't really point to anything that I'm like, this stood out as a negative.
Yeah.
I thought it was incredible. Like, one of the other things that really stood out to me was the editing, especially when it came to my favorite scene, like where they decided to place emphasis at any given moment during the dance. Like, whenever we would cut to their backs and their hands touching and gliding across each other, and then they'd cut back up to their faces and then they'd return to that. Like, that's a really thoughtful touch that indicates a degree of intimacy that they're discovering, and I fucking love it. Like I said, the score, I've been listening to it all morning. Absolutely adore it. Anya Taylor-Joy is incredible. Mia Goth is incredible. Bill Nighy is incredible. Johnny Flynn, I enjoyed a great deal. Josh O'Connor plays a perfect weirdo. So performance, it's well directed. It's just it's well written. I don't even really know where I would tell you. There's an aspect of this movie that I don't think is well done.
Yeah.
Joe, how are you feeling on a scale of 1 to 10 here?
I think
it's...
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
I was gonna say, I think it's funny that I'm comparing this to I'm trying to get in my perspective to make it make sense, and I think the closest analogy that I can make is what comic book movie do I hold as the best adaptation of, because that's what I know and what I would view as I'm in right away. So I feel like Jane Austen, is this the Dark Knight of the Jane Austen of just this time? Is that where we are? Because Dark Knight, it rounded out to a 9.83 in this, so someone who would me love the Dark Knight, I give it that instantly, and then someone who loves Jane Austen in these books gives it a 9, that instantly is kind of what it's feeling like. It's feeling like
that's so true.
The Dark Knight of...
No, I mean,
but
It's just it consistently fires on a very high percentage rate. Like, it is just so fucking good for so much of the movie, and there's not really a lull. I don't feel like I'm ever like, damn, we still got an hour left. Like, no, it'd be like every time I'd paused, I'd made it like another 30 minutes into the movie, and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, Jesus, that's going by quick. So like I'm definitely north of 9 here. I think it's an incredible movie.
Let's see. We gave Green Knight a 9.25. That's the only 9 we've given on an actor spotlight so far. And Monkey Man was an 8.5.
I think this sad to say, I love Monkey Man. I think this is a better movie than Monkey Man.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah. So I think I knew I was north of 8.5. I felt like 9 felt like like the floor. And I feel like I'm like at 9. I mean, Green Knight. I might give it the little edge over Green Knight, because Green Knight is. I mean, if you're not locked in, man, it can get by you like a little bit. The writing is kind of a lot, and you got to do like. There's a lot to that movie, but this is. I feel like you're never really lost. You're never like, oh man, I have no idea what the hell's going on. It's just
complicated story. There's a lot going on here. Like, there's even just familial relationships. Like, Knightley's brother is married to Emma's sister, and that changes like the inheritance thing. And then with all like, there's a decent amount that you kind of have to glean from this movie.
Especially when it came to like that first dance approach, it kind of keyed you into why they've never really considered each other as an option. Because whenever she's like, well, it wouldn't be completely inappropriate, you know, like, we're not technically brother and sister. It's just, you know, so like that whole thing, it's I appreciated that angle. So yeah, it is a lot to keep up with, but I do, to be fair, like, versus against the Green Knight's writing, like, they do put it in the simplest terms for you. It is a complicated story that is easy to follow, and I think that's a plus. I think that's a great benefit. I'd probably put it on the exact same level as the Green Knight. I would probably put it right at 9.25 alongside it. There's a grandiosity to the Green Knight that this doesn't really have the opportunity to possess. And while I think that like the way it shoots interiors and high ceilings and giant paintings and nature and stuff is gorgeous, and it makes it feel grand, you know, there's only so much you can do when it comes to like visually going toe to toe with a fantasy movie that's shot as well as the Green Knight. And I think that this, like, I would put those movies on the same level in terms of quality. So I'm comfortable with that.
If we were to do that, that's a 9.33 average, and that's feeling pretty good. It doesn't beat out the Green Knight. Green Knight was a 9.42, so just barely. Just barely.
94 versus 93.
But I feel like that is the closest comparison, though, for me. Like, as far as movies that we've covered, definitely in this spotlight, or in the actor spotlight, it's the closest. So, yeah, I think I like that. 93 is not bad. Right. That's very good.
No. Yeah, no, I love that. But, yeah, then with that, I think that we will conclude this episode of the Penny Bloom podcast, and we've officially kicked off our Anya Taylor-Joy spotlight on a high note. I'm so very, very happy with it, and I can't wait for the weeks to come. But, yeah, with that, I was Colton Robertson. I was joined by Joseph George. Thank you very much, homie.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it's always a pleasure to have you. And thank you very much for joining us once again, Clare DeGennaro.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, of course, and you're welcome back anytime. We will be back next week to continue our Anya Taylor-Joy spotlight with Last Night in Soho, directed by Edgar Wright. And then we will be back the week after that with The Menu, directed by Mark Mylod. And then we will be capping off our Anya Taylor-Joy spotlight with her blockbuster-leading Furiosa, Mad Max saga, directed by George Miller, and I'm very, very excited to get through all that. We've also got our action movie project going on Mondays and Fridays alongside it. So this Friday will bring us Die Hard, if you want to, get a feel for how fucking different we can get on this podcast. We're going Emma to Die Hard. And then from Die Hard to Hard Boiled back to Last Night in Soho, Last Night in Soho, over to The Raid. You know, like it's just like all sorts of. We're doing a lot right now. So yeah, action movies and Anya Taylor-Joy. That's May right now, baby. That's what we're about. So yeah, with that, remember, peace, love, and bloom, and always praise Anya Taylor-Joy.